listen up, y'all. It's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for...
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Today I am very excited to be talking with Cory Falter. He has taken the hospitality industry by storm, and I can't wait for him to introduce himself and tell you all about what him and his team are doing, because the hospitality industry is, I don't even know if it's the right way to say, like, it's going through a rough patch, but it's very difficult right now. And I feel like he's shaking things up and breaking through the noise and making shit happen. So, Cory, please introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you're calling in from. And then, of course, tell us all about the lure agency, right?
Lure agency. Yes, indeed. Yes. Well, Megan, thank you so much for having me on. I'm going to take these glasses off because I can't see you.
I'm loving the glasses. They're great.
I've got my 80s garb on. It's 80s Friday today.
Nice.
Leaning into my personal brand that I get from my great community, Brand Built, by the way. Shout out to the crew over there, you and Nat and Darren. You guys, I love being part of that. So it's been a pleasure. I'm partner at Lure Agency here. I'm out of San Diego. My partner, Susan, is out of Boulder. I'm also the president of HSMAI here in San Diego chapter, best chapter in association of an international chapter of, I think, 4,000 members. We operate on the sales, marketing, and revenue side. And as you'd mentioned, hospitality is a very, very interesting industry. There's a lot of nuances. There's acronyms, and there's certain languages that don't occur in any other industry except hospitality, and including one unique dynamic is, as you can imagine, they have limited product and inventory over a period of time, which makes it a completely different dynamic in a different industry in itself altogether. Appreciate the intro. Thank you so much. And just trying to shake things up a little bit in hospitality. I don't know if we don't get through it and annoy them at the same time. So that's why we try to keep it kind of fun and light and see if we can get a few laughs at the same time.
And tell everybody like what your agency actually does and who you work with specifically in the hospitality industry, because I find your model, I mean, yes, you're a marketing agency, but I find the way that you go after the industry to be different than what I've seen in the past.
Well, what's different about us is we've decided to just specifically focus on the B2B side of the industry. And again, one of those differences about hospitality is that if you can imagine a hotel being almost like a little city, because it has B2C, which is your typical leisure traveler. Like if you and the family wanted to go on a family vacation to Orlando to go to Disney World, that's a B2C play. But then if Brand Built wanted to have a conference, say in Charlotte, you guys would reach out to a meeting planner or somebody at the hotel that plans corporate events, retreats, and that's a B2B segment. But then you have spa, then you have retail, which we would gift shop. You could have rentals. There's all these different segments of businesses that are plugged into this hotel, and it's very, very interesting dynamics. On the B2B side, we work specifically with independent hotels selling their group space. So, that would not be the Marriotts or the Hiltons. We work primarily hotels that are very different, interesting, and unique with their sales team. And then we also work with any supplier or vendor that is trying to sell to hotels. So it's a similar model. You're familiar, obviously, with the kind of the inbound methodology of a longer sales cycle and the nurturing process, which is not common for hotels. So that's where I think a lot of the maybe misunderstanding or a lot of the connections, because it's a very reactionary business where book a room, or oftentimes most oftentimes hotels get their business from third parties. They don't generate the business themselves. Booking.com, Expedia, those are third parties. Much like on the group side, they have other people that feed them leads, where then they respond to RFPs. And it's a very reactionary culture where we're trying to unwind that, and teach hotels to drive more direct business themselves.
Gotcha. So you're kind of trying to put it back into the hotel or the owner, the owner's hands, versus being reactionary. If you're an entrepreneur, everyone knows if you are only reactionary, that's a really dangerous situation to be in. And that's
Big time.
kind of what I meant at the top of the hour when we were talking, when I first introduced you, is that's kind of what's happening with the hospitality industry. I mean, it's been like this for a while, but it's really bad right now. Everyone's reacting, especially because of the COVID situation. This was an industry that took a huge hit, right? Huge hit, because
Big
nobody
time.
was going to hotels like, when the world shut down. And it's really hard to come back from that. And I will say this, you said something that sparked a really good conversation that we should have, because I feel like the one good thing that did come out of that COVID situation is that it kind of slapped everyone in the face in the industry, right? Because they're like, oh crap, well, we can't really be reactionary anymore. We need to figure out a way to get in front of this. And that's one of the things that you and your agency is doing, is trying to teach these people and teach these owners and hotel owners and all the people in the industry how to get around that. And no, don't react. Be the person that's already there doing it, instead of being, reacting to what everyone else is doing. So obviously you have a great personality. You're bright and vibrant, and your content shows that too. So I think that helps, right? Because sometimes it can be kind of a stiffer environment, right? Like a stiffer group of people. But again, you're talking about the Marriotts and the Hiltons of the world. Yeah, so you get to pick and choose your own adventure by choosing to work with, like boutique hotels and people that are a little bit smaller. And one question I have for you as you were talking, do you think that by kind of removing yourself from the big players and putting yourself into the smaller, maybe not smaller hotels, but the more less corporate-y hotels, if that's what you want to call them, I'm not really sure. Boutique hotels is the only thing I can think of.
Sure.
Do you find them to be more responsive to what you're trying to accomplish in the industry than the big players?
Oh boy, wow, that's a big setup right there.
Is that a loaded
Megan,
question?
No, there's so much there to unpack there. So here's the thing too. You'd mentioned, one of the things about COVID. Well, even the industry has really crushed it for a long time. There hasn't been a big why to look at things differently. For instance, like I mentioned before, there's limited inventory. You can only sell so much of what they have. This industry is really suffered from, we've always done it this way. If it ain't broke, don't fix it itis. So the will to change has not really been there, even through ever since COVID, because people had revenge travel. As soon as the gates opened up, man, people were gone. They were traveling. It was off the charts. But just now, things are beginning to slow down, and people are going, "Oh my gosh, whatever the economy is beginning to slow." We've got some different things that are happening now. You'd mentioned some of the big brands versus the independents. Well, there's so much bureaucracy and layers of brand compliance and regulations and things. It takes them so long to make a decision. And as you know, in this digital landscape, it's all about trying certain things. And by the time that we talk about trying different things and course correcting, that trend is either gone, or the generative AI trend is completely blown. So at least at the boutique or independent level, they're more apt to say, let's try some different things. And if it's not working, it's really not that big a deal. We'll try some different things. It's almost like we couldn't even do work with the big brands, because by in addition to that, you've got no access to the website. And I don't know if you've been to a Marriott website or a Hilton website. They're horrific. They're like 1995 flashback, not 80s, quite 80s, but 95. And when they don't understand the impact of having a personalized experience and how much of an impact that has because they use that as almost like an online brochure. A guest comes there, they look at the website, and then they go book at a third party, which is really bizarre, because wouldn't you want to, that person goes through your front door, they're impressed, they end up booking with you and saving that 15 to 30% commission, but they don't necessarily look at that way, which is really like I had mentioned before, that whole culture of dependency. Yeah. It's hard to unwind that. And when you do the simple math, and I'm certainly no smart guy, but they're paying millions of dollars in commissions to other people.
That was going to be my question, is what's an average, looking at this whole thing, we're just going to jump right in from an operations standpoint, right? They're paying ridiculous amounts of money to the booking.coms of the world, right? Because
Absolutely.
what do they pay for every booking? Like, what's the fee? What's the average fee?
I think they range from as low as 15% up to 25, 30. And the brands get a
That
bigger.
much? Low end? I was thinking
Yep.
like 5. So you're
No.
paying 15% per booking? Per booking.
On the leisure
That's
side.
insane.
It is. Absolutely.
That's crazy.
By the way, it's the unintended consequences of this. And this is something you would understand. I think a lot of people don't realize when you put your customer service and part of the guest experience in somebody else's hands, like Expedia, if you book through Expedia and you try to cancel, a lot of people don't realize you don't call the property to cancel or change your booking. You have to call Expedia. And then you're like, what's going on here? I don't understand that. And now you've got an upset guest because they're not getting great customer service. They go leave a poor review on TripAdvisor. That impacts the bottom line. But for whatever reason, a lot of operators and owners, they're not factoring that into the effects of all of that. When you're literally putting customer services in somebody else's hands, that to me could be devastating.
I'll tell you a story. We just went to teenage boys, and they're huge into video games. We went to a video game conference over the weekend in Milwaukee, and I booked the hotel through the conference website because you get a discount on the rooms,
Sure.
right? When you click the affiliate or whatever. The Hilton app is actually not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. It's not the worst I've seen, but it was a Fairfield. Whatever. It was a Hilton hotel, and then. But what happened was because it wasn't booked directly on the website, like we have Hilton Honors, right? So we get points because, when you're a family and you have multiple kids, you use the points, right? You want points.
Absolutely.
It saves you money, right? So, the points didn't get applied. And so then I spent a couple hours dealing with trying to figure out, I just want my points, I want make sure I get the right points, and it was connected to the wrong account. And it was a nightmare because I couldn't get anybody on the phone because if you call, and so in this situation, that's corporate, right? Points are corporate. Yep. So you can't call the property because it has nothing to do with them. The properties, when you're at these big hotels, the individual properties have nothing to do with the overall corporate structure and how the point system is set up and the loyalty programs and all of that is set up. So that takes your customer service even a step farther, out removed, because it's broken customer service within your own organization.
Definitely.
The people at the front desk couldn't do anything at the place. We had to call corporate and then try to get through the corporate customer service to try and get. And so I was like, why don't they just give you guys your Hilton hotel? Why don't they give you guys access right here? Why don't you have access on your computer to just say, oh, here's your booking, here's your points, put it on your account. Here's my Hilton card. I don't understand. Being in this industry, and I'm also probably the worst customer because I deal with user experience and customer experience, and that's my whole job. I'm the worst customer. Because as soon as I have a bad user experience, I let everybody around me know. And I'm like, this is the worst user experience, and I'm going to tell everybody about it. So I can feel that because my husband loves booking.com because it's so easy. And so that's the other thing. The reason it's never going to change is because the booking.coms, the hotwire.coms, all of those people are focused on customer experience and focused on user experience. They make the process seamless and simple. And you can book within 5 minutes, get the hotel, get the best price because they give you the price comparisons. And so these hotels are really doing themselves a disservice by not putting themselves in the booking game. Stop letting other people book and getting rid of customer service, because they would never do that in their actual hotels. They expect customer service inside the hotel as soon as you walk in the door to be spot on, right? Why wouldn't you do it across the board? That's always been my question.
Yeah, it's funny. You just hit it right on the head. It's commoditized, right? And hotels have not done a great job of, and I'm going to talk about the group side because it's even more horrendous on the group side. You're talking about the leisure side in that area. But
Yeah.
They have not done a great job to reach out before you make that decision and say, Megan, you're special to us. Forget about booking.com. Come to us directly. We're going to take care of you. If you book direct with us, we're going to make you feel like a VIP. Booking can't do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Hotels are doing such a poor job of really doing what they do at, like you said, at the hotel. Once you get there, it's different. But if you carry that experience all the way through, you wouldn't go to a booking.com. And I know if you're going to Fairfield and you might have a different experience, like if you're versus taking the family to Orlando and you're looking for the full experience of the pool and you're doing this and that. I understand there's different ways why you would decide on making a property at some versus but hotels have just not done a great job of that. And I'm going to talk about the group side really quick. Imagine Brandbilt wants to have a conference in Orlando, right? So say a meeting planner got involved to help plan your Brandbilt conference. That meeting planner would then shoot out 20 RFPs to 20 hotels in Orlando. And the sales teams would scurry around. They would get the RFP. They would fill out the RFP. They would submit it back to you guys. And it's a faceless, nameless process where it really boils down to price at that point. Again, it's the commoditization. There's no team. There's nothing that makes that property really shine out and be different than everybody else's. It's really, you hit it on the head. They've really not done a great job of fulfilling that experience at the very forefront of that. And that's what we're really trying to change, really.
You talking about RFPs in this situation is hilarious to me because that's such a corporate term.
Totally. And that's
so I used to deal with RFPs in the corporate tech world, right? So the fact that a hotel, which is a lifestyle brand or should be, or a lifestyle experience, is using RFPs to get people to come for an experience is
totally
asinine.
Totally, right?
Asinine. Because if I get an RFP from a hotel, I'm throwing that thing in the trash. Don't give me an RFP with pricing. So I'm comparing what your food, who cares? Food is food,
totally.
Right? Like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I want to know about the experience that you're going to give me in my group.
And that doesn't shine through on that RFP at all.
You know what's even crazier to me? So this is as you're talking about group events and stuff like this, and this is still probably the leisure side. But when you think about group events like weddings and stuff like that, what's funny to me is when I see like hotel commercials or you see like for like beach vacations and resorts and stuff like that. You know what the first thing I do is I don't look at the hotel's website. I either go to like a booking.com to compare prices or I call a travel agent.
Yep.
You don't even go to the hotels. And honestly, when we were doing corporate events back in the day, we would never even go to the hotels. We would go to an event planner and make them do the work. So
now that's changed a little bit because of COVID. A lot, up to half, and even in some instances, 80% of a hotel's potential business come from admins and executive assistants now because they did not hire their meeting planners back. So it's gotten the whole thing is broken because not only are they dependent on RFPs, that's all they do is their type of business is commoditization. They're not even really addressing over half of potential business. Because if you go to most of their websites, they assume you're a professional planner, and it's a terrible experience all the way around.
It just is amazing to me that when you get to be that big, at least for the big guys, and I'm hoping that it sounds to me like otherwise you wouldn't have a business, that the bespoke hotels and these hotels are paying attention. But the big guys, because this happens across the board, it's not just hospitality, but it's almost like they've become too big and they just don't care. The corporation that I worked with for a while was getting fined millions and millions of dollars every year by the FCC for like spam complaints and whatever. They would just pay the fines. It was more convenient and easier for them to just pay the fines every year than take the 6 months that it would need to be to put the project together to fix it. I feel like that's where the hospitality industry is right now.
And unfortunately, they don't see
a little bit, little
you
time,
know
a little effort
crazy?
to fix it.
they don't have a choice anymore right now. And we've all talked about this on the last few brand built sessions. Generative AI is going to absolutely blindside this industry because they have no idea what's coming. I can run a personal audit on anybody, any hotel, any recommendation. I can do that on the fly. It is going to change every business, everything. Once people begin to prompt, and you've thrown out some really cool. In fact, I use level 5 prompts all the time now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is insane. And I'm like, every day I see a new use caseage. I've talked to some hotel sellers at my properties have never even opened up ChatGPT ever.
Right. And they probably never will.
No, they will because I'm teaching them that they need to because they could win. They need to win more business. So,
yes, your people probably will but that's because they have someone like you. That's what I mean. You're a disruptor in this industry. They have someone like you and your team showing them a better way. I feel like, like the good old boys club, and it's always been done this way. It's going to change. That's what the rest of the industry is like. You and your team are over here, Cory. Like you're over here, like throwing it out there, like, look at all the good stuff we can do. Look at the change we can look at how we can build your revenue. Look at how we can build your growth. Check this out. And everybody else is over here like, nope, we've done it this way for a bazillion years and it's worked. So we're just going to keep doing it this way. Fines be damned. We're trudging through, and it starts at the top, right? Like their leaders are not seeing enough of the bottom line. Well, I mean, they obviously see the bottom line, but they're not seeing taking this amount of time compared to this amount of time would save them so much money, and they just don't see it that way.
And
they
staff. And it's funny you say that because what I was getting back to before is, remember I was telling you about the unintended consequences of dependency on attribution or acquisition, I should say. I see a short-term thinking and it's not like you just mentioned, they're not looking at the big picture and the ramifications now of making one decision and having it trickle down. The whole concept of automation, right? You talk about this all the time. The industry does not use any of it. They're scurrying around. They're answering questions that could be, their inboxes are full. It's a frantic, chaotic process from what I'm learning. Admittedly, I've never worked at a hotel. And if we did, I would pull some plugs. But because I think it's refreshing to look at other industries and going, guys, you guys they still have fax machines. They still send out checks in the mail. The inefficiencies at that level are so tremendous. And then they wonder why they can't they're having a lot of great people leave the industry because they're burned out. They're wearing all these hats these days, and it doesn't have to be this way. I think the day is coming finally. Like I said, I don't think that they're going to have a choice because AI is changing everything. Every single industry, every business, it's going to be transformative.
If you had to pick before we, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, if you had to pick one of anybody who's out there that's doing it well from either side, the group side or the B2C side, is there anyone out there that's actually doing a good job that would be like a model that you could say, do it like them, like they're doing, even if it's not, because nobody's 100% perfect, right? No brand is going to be, but is there anybody out there that's actually made good strides to get to where you're talking about?
Is
that an okay question to ask?
Oh, man. Well, naturally, our partners that we work with are really beginning to see the benefits of driving direct business. And they're like, and now they're not having to respond to the RFPs like they used to, and that is really beginning to work beautifully. In terms of a brand, though, because there's only so much at the hotel level that we can control, which is we don't do the website, and that's done by other people. I use this example a lot of somebody that has the story, the emotion, the connection, and they fulfill the brand when I see it. I don't know anybody that works there. I don't have a relationship with this property, but there's a small little boutique property in Palm Springs called the Parker Palm Springs. If you go to the website, which is not new by any means, the way that they've done the experience, like you feel that when you go to the website, it matches the physical. I literally went to the site. They won an award for this website. And I went there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing, it captivated me. Everything from the homepage to the way that they do the meetings. I had to go there. I had to go check it out. I'm like, this place, the online and the offline match it. The the culture, the verbiage. Whoever did that, kudos again. I don't know who, it's some agency out of New York. They've thoughtfully put that together from that very touch point. And so I think that that's one shining example. And like I said, because we just handle the B2B for our partners are experiencing the benefits of thought leadership, content, video, all the stuff that we talk about. It's all brand new. Putting yourself on this in sales, it's the exception. There's only a handful of sellers in hotels that have taken this step and realized when you put yourself on this and you begin to educate, inspire, build trust with their prospects, they come to you because you've got the goods. I slowly see it shift coming, and we're excited for it. So yeah.
This has been such an awesome conversation. I'm so happy that you decided to join us because there's a few hospitality people in Brandville, and it's so interesting to hear the different takes on the industry and the different ways that, because like you said, you're coming from the group side, B2B side, and John is coming from the B2C side. And there's all these different things happening. And it's amazing to me that an industry that has been around this long is still this broken, right?
Totally.
And I get it. Every industry has their faults and stuff like that, but it's really broken, and of course you would never know it monetarily because they make a bunch of money, but do they? You don't hear about the other side of it. And you don't, nobody's out there talking about you could go and look at the stocks and see, and you could go see how the industry as a whole is doing. And if you actually take the time to research it, you'll find some pretty shocking year over year, numbers, because it's not doing as well as everybody thinks it should be. Like the Airbnbs of the world are kind of kicking the ass.
I could not agree with you more. And I think a lot of it gets back to is they focus on a lot of top line revenue and not necessarily profitability. And again, I'm not a finance guy. Obviously, I'm about as far from that as possible, but I think you're right. But what I did find out, and I know there's so much to talk about.
No, you're good. Keep going.
When you have, this gets back to the short-term thinking. I just found this from doing research with ChatGPT. When your business is dependent on third parties for your revenue, your EBITDA is less. So when you go to sell that hotel, they factor in on where your revenue is coming from. And if you had more direct revenue, your value of a property, from what I'm learning, is higher. So I'm wondering, why would owners not have more interest on wanting to drive more direct revenue for their property? Because of all the other things that we talked about.
Because they're there for the paycheck. They're there. Well,
I'm talking about the owners that actually have the $45 million property in downtown LA, and they want to sell it for $65 million. So they're the ones that, and between you and I, naturally, this is what gets their attention. I'm surprised that they don't look at that and realize that if they focused more on generating more of the direct revenue, everything goes up. Less commissions, profitability of the hotel goes up, and the real estate value goes up.
Exactly, 100%. All right, Cory. Such a good conversation. Tell everybody where they can find you, obviously on LinkedIn, but we'll also drop it in the show notes so people can click and go find you. I highly encourage everybody to go out to LinkedIn and check out his content. But where else, if somebody wants to reach out and talk to you more about this, if somebody from the hospitality industry is listening and they want to talk to you more about what you do and how you can help them, where should they go?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. We just rolled out a Done With You program called Breakouts. And so there are 4 sessions. We teach hotel sales teams and vendors. We have 2 separate teams at hotels how to drive more direct business. And then we teach hotel vendors how to sell more products and services and get attention of key industry leaders at hotels. And so on our website, lureagency.com, you can always schedule time if you want to chat about some of your issues that you have and learn more about us there. As you know, I met you on LinkedIn first, and everybody else that I know. In fact, I've never met any of you guys in person, and I still don't know why people are sitting LinkedIn. It still has a bad rap of being a job board community, which is a shame because I've met so many amazing people there.
It's a pretty fantastic tool if you can use it correctly, and check out the Brandville community, guys, because it will teach you how to use it correctly. Plus, building your own personal brand and helping grow your business and all of the wonderful things. So brand build strong. And again, Cory, thank you. We will drop all your information so people can find you in the notes below. All right, everybody, that's all for now. And remember, technology is only good when it works, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Megan. Thanks for the great convo.